Welcome to the fire, to the blood of the truth, to the war behind the smile. If you made it here, if you clicked, if you stayed this long, it means you're not afraid to bleed, not afraid to watch the illusions burn, not afraid to walk alone through the dark without asking anyone for directions. This is for the ones who stopped playing pretty, for the ones who snapped the mask in half and threw it in the dirt, for the ones who stopped begging to be seen and chose instead to become something no one could ignore. You were not born to blend. You were not crafted for the corner. You were born to walk in like thunder and leave echoes behind long after your footsteps fade. This is not for the fragile. This is not for the weak-spirited. This is for those who have buried pieces of themselves to protect the world from their full force. It's time. It's your time. You ripped the truth out and slammed it on the table. And they didn't see it coming, did they? No. They expected you to keep smiling. They thought you'd keep playing dumb, keep pretending you didn't know the game they were playing behind closed doors. But you watched, quietly, patiently, and while they underestimated you, you let them dig their own grave, inch by inch, lie by lie, smile by smile. And when the moment came, when the weight of their own deception snapped the final thread, you didn't scream, you didn't beg, you delivered, cold, calculated, truth like a blade, truth like fire, truth like revenge, with no need for violence, just presence, just silence, just the unstoppable force of a soul that woke up. And if you're here, then maybe you're one of us. If these words echo in your chest, if they set something inside you ablaze, subscribe, because we're building something that doesn't bow to fear. Smash the like, not for vanity, but to let the algorithm know this darkness speaks to you. You're not soft. You're not fake. You were born for this pain, this betrayal, this transformation. It's not the end. It's the ignition. They never expected you to become the storm. They saw your patience as weakness, your silence as consent. But in reality, you were studying them, mapping every move, memorizing every false word, every snake-tongued whisper, every time they smiled at you with poison behind their teeth. And you just kept standing, bleeding inside, but standing. And now, they're choking on the truth you served them. Because when you ripped it out and slammed it down, you did it with no apology. You did it with calm fury, the kind of power that doesn't need to shout. Because when you're that real, when you're that done, when you're that evolved, you don't need to argue. You become the final chapter of a story they thought they'd keep rewriting. But you ended it with a period and a stare and a truth that echoed so loud it shook the walls they built with lies. Let them talk now. Let them rewrite the narrative in their heads. Let them pretend they were the victim. Let them whine about how you changed, how you switched up, how you turned cold. Because they'll never admit the truth, that they broke the very thing that held back the darkness they now fear. You didn't turn cold. You turned truthful. You stopped being their comfort zone. You stopped dimming your light so they could shine in your reflection. Now they stand in front of a mirror, cracked by their own manipulation. And for the first time, they see themselves, and they hate it. But that's not your problem anymore. You were the last warning, the final grace, the one shot at redemption, and they wasted it. So now you stand not as a victim, but as the consequence. You watch them dig that grave, not because you're heartless, but because you were done rescuing people from their own karma. You let them go, not out of hate, but out of self-respect. You're not here to save people from themselves anymore. You're here to build your kingdom from the ashes of every bridge they burned. And it's not revenge you seek, it's freedom. And freedom doesn't scream, it simply walks away, unapologetically, with truth as its armor and silence as its sword. They called you cruel, they called you heartless, but the truth is, you were always too much for their small games. And now they're realizing, too late, that they lost someone who would have walked through fire for them. But now they can burn alone. Some people only love you when you stay broken, when you're manageable, predictable, easy to deceive. But once you start loving yourself enough to say, no more, once you start speaking truth without sugar, you become a threat. You become the villain in their story. And guess what? Let them write that version. Let them tell their friends how cold you became. You're not here to explain your evolution to people still crawling through their own delusions. You're here to break patterns, to cut cords, to leave legacies. So stop mourning what you lost and start honoring who you became. Because this is not destruction. This is rebirth. A violent, glorious, unapologetic return to the version of you that never needed to ask permission to exist. They laughed when you were quiet. They mocked your kindness. They twisted your loyalty into chains. But they forgot. You were watching. And when the moment came, when the knife was still in your back and the blood was still warm, you didn't cry. You didn't plead. You turned, slowly, like something ancient, something unstoppable, something they should have never awoken. And what did you do? You ripped the truth out and slammed it on the table, with their name carved into it, with their lies crumbling beside it, and all they could do was stare. Because when real shows up, fake dies, every single time. So no, you're not too much. You're just not for cowards. You're not broken. You're just done being used. You're not cold. You're focused. You're not bitter. You're aware. And the people who once danced in your softness are now choking on the steel you became. That's not your guilt to carry. That's their karma to swallow. You didn't change. You remembered who you are. And now, you're not asking. You're not explaining. You're not softening your edges for people who never once dulled their knives for you. You are the reckoning, the consequence, the storm they summoned but couldn't control. They underestimated you, over and over, thought they had you figured out. But see, they never met this version of you, the one who isn't afraid to lose people who were never real, the one who doesn't flinch when peace means walking away from everything, the one who would rather stand alone in truth than die surrounded by liars. This version burns cities to rebuild kingdoms. This version stops answering calls from ghosts who had their chance. This version doesn't just know the truth. This version is the truth. And now you walk different, talk different. Your silence is loud. Your stare is unsettling. Because now you don't flinch. You don't beg. You don't chase. You let people show who they are. And when they do, you don't unsee it. You let them dig. Let them lie. Let them run their mouth. And then, with all the calm of a God who's seen it all, you slam the truth down like Judgment Day. And in that moment, there's no arguing with you, no debate, no excuses. Just the weight of everything they pretended wasn't real. And that is your power now. You're not reactive. You're strategic. You don't need revenge. You are the aftermath. You don't need to prove them wrong. You let time do that. Because truth has one rule: it always shows up. And you are no longer in the business of hiding it. You let it speak. Loud, bold, brutal. And when it does, those who danced in the dark behind your back, they feel it in their bones. So stand up, stand tall, stand alone if you have to. You didn't come this far just to play small. You didn't walk through hell to ask people to like you. You're not here to make people comfortable. You're here to be the wildfire they never expected, the one who loved deep and cut deeper when betrayal came knocking, the one who smiled while being torn apart and still came out unshaken, the one who stopped explaining and started building, brick by brick, scar by scar, truth by brutal truth. You are not fragile. You are not lost. You are exactly what this world fears. Someone who knows who they are and refuses to apologize for it. And now that you've ripped the truth out and slammed it on the table, don't you dare pick it back up. Leave it there. Let them stare at it. Let them tremble in the silence that follows. That silence, it's not emptiness. It's the sound of power. It's the sound of clarity. The sound of an era ending and a new one beginning. One where you no longer tolerate half-truths, emotional parasites, or pretty lies wrapped in convenience. That truth cost you something. Every scar on your soul, every tear you didn't let fall, every sleepless night where you questioned if you were the crazy one, it built you. So leave that truth on the table like a warning sign, a battle flag, a sacred offering to the part of you that finally said, no more. Let the people who tried to manipulate you sit in their discomfort. Let them squirm in the face of their own reflection. You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them softness. You gave them chances, and they fed them to the fire. So now you walk away, not bitter, but clean. Not angry, but reborn. Not shattered, but sharpened. You are not what they did to you. You are what you chose to become after they failed you. And that, right there, is what makes you unstoppable. You don't break. You transform. You don't seek revenge. You evolve. And you don't just survive. You rise. They don't know how long you stayed quiet, how many times you swallowed the truth just to keep the peace. But now you're done choking on your own awareness. Now you speak, with your eyes, with your silence, with your existence. Now you move different, and your movement isn't noise, it's impact. Every step forward is a funeral for the versions of you that once begged to be chosen. You are not that anymore. You are choice itself. You are the standard, the line in the sand, the fire that no longer asks for permission to burn. Let them call you names. Let them paint you as the villain. Let them tell their version to anyone who'll listen, because the ones who see clearly, the ones who understand what it means to walk through betrayal and come out godlike, they'll know. They'll feel you in every syllable of this speech. They'll recognize themselves in your rage, in your resilience, in your refusal to play savior to people who worship their own destruction. Because you don't save people who set fire to your wings. You watch them fall, and you don't flinch. You've learned now, haven't you? You've learned that not everyone who smiles at you wants you to win. You've learned that some hands shake yours while holding the dagger behind their back. But now you see them, all of them, and you don't even need to confront them anymore. You just outgrow them. You walk past them like they never existed. Because when you know your worth, you stop entertaining anything that costs your peace. And when you carry truth like a weapon, you don't need to fight. You just exist. And they collapse. And here's what they fear the most. You're not broken by what happened. You're not crushed under the weight of betrayal. No, you're stronger, colder, quieter, and more dangerous than ever. Because now, your kindness has teeth. Now your love has boundaries. Now your loyalty has terms. And you don't throw pearls to pigs. You don't waste your light on those who treat it like a flashlight to find their way back only when they're lost again. This world doesn't need another watered-down version of you. It doesn't need another obedient soul, nodding and smiling while dying inside. It needs this you, the raw, untamed, unapologetic force that knows too much to ever be fooled again. You are your own reckoning, your own protection, your own power. And the day you stopped waiting for someone to see you was the day the universe bowed and whispered, finally, they're watching now. The same ones who tried to control you, who laughed when you were vulnerable, who mocked you for caring. Now they're watching from the shadows, realizing that they lost access to something they'll never find again. You didn't just walk away. You leveled up so far that their existence doesn't even register anymore. And that is the kind of revenge no lie can compete with. Because here's the truth, they'll never admit. They wanted you weak. They wanted you doubting yourself. They wanted you dependent on their approval, scared to lose them, terrified to be alone. But what they didn't realize was that the moment you embraced solitude, the moment you faced yourself in the mirror and said, I am enough, you became untouchable. You became a force no manipulation could seduce again. You became the embodiment of a truth so raw, so heavy, so real, it couldn't be silenced. And now, everything changes. Now, you walk like a ghost of the past they'll never escape. Now, your presence is the reminder of what they lost, not because you died, but because you woke up. And once you wake up, once you stop pretending, stop performing, stop trying to be enough for people who never even knew what enough looked like, you become dangerous. Not because you hurt people, but because you can't be hurt by them anymore. This isn't about hate. This isn't about revenge. This is about truth. The kind that burns away everything fake, everything toxic, everything temporary, and the kind that builds empires from broken bones and buried dreams. You've tasted that truth. And now, no lie can satisfy you. No shallow love can tempt you. No half friendship can survive around you. Because you're not just surviving anymore. You're dominating. Quietly, fiercely, without needing applause, without needing recognition. Just showing up every day as the version of yourself no one saw coming. You let them dig their own grave, and now they lay in it, not because you pushed them in, but because you stepped back and watched them fall into the pit they swore wasn't real. And now you're building, with precision, with rage turned into fuel, with silence turned into clarity, with every betrayal turned into a brick, a fortress around your soul. And they're outside the gates now, screaming your name like you owe them entry. But you don't even turn your head, because you're done saving people who had the chance to grow and chose destruction instead. So stand in it, all of it, the pain, the strength, the scars, the rebirth. Own it, speak it, wear it like armor. Let your truth be the wildfire they never saw coming. And when they ask what happened to the version of you that used to be nice, smile. Just smile and say, I buried them right beside your lies. And then keep walking, unbothered, unapologetic, unstoppable. Because once you rip the truth out and slam it on the table, you don't go back to pretending. You don't shrink back into that soft shell, the one they were comfortable walking over. You don't return to being digestible just because your full form makes them choke. Number. That moment, that choice to lay it all down raw, ugly, undeniable, was the final transformation. There's no unseeing, no undoing. You saw them, all of them, and more importantly, you finally saw yourself. Not the version they manipulated, not the version that begged, the real you, the one that was always underneath, waiting for the silence to crack open. And now the silence is broken. Now you speak, not with your voice, but with your movement, with your absence, with your standards. And your absence? It screams louder than any argument. It echoes. It shakes their world in ways your presence never could. Because they took it for granted. They drank from your cup like it was endless. But now the well has run dry, not out of spite, but out of awakening. You've outgrown them, and they know it. That's why they'll act confused, why they'll spin stories, why they'll call you cold, a traitor, a monster. But deep down, they know. They know exactly what they did to deserve your silence, your withdrawal, your thunderous goodbye. They watched you suffer and smiled. They watched you doubt yourself and fed the fire. They watched you bleed emotionally and called it drama. But now the mirror is facing them. Now the weight of their actions is back in their lap, and it's crushing them. Not because you curse them, but because you simply stopped catching the bricks they kept throwing. You let them feel what you felt. You let the karma unfold naturally, not by force, not with revenge, just with truth. And that's what they fear most, the truth. Because it strips them bare. It exposes every mask, every false tear, every time they weaponized your empathy. You were their shield, their comfort, their emotional punching bag. And the day you walked away, the day you ripped the truth out and laid it bare, they felt the ground shift beneath them. Because now they don't have you to blame. And without a scapegoat, without your forgiveness to bandage their wounds, they're bleeding in their own guilt. Let them. Let them drown in the storm they created. Let them remember you, not as someone weak, not as someone they broke, but as the reckoning that came dressed as love. Let your legacy be the silence that followed their last betrayal. Let your name be the one they whisper when no one else is around. Because they know. They all know. You were the real one, the anchor, the heart, the soul that loved them deeper than they ever deserved. And they blew it. They burned the bridge, and now they watch you build kingdoms on the ashes. Because now, you don't just survive, you lead. You lead with presence, with depth, with unshakable standards. And the ones who come now, they'll either meet you at your level or fall away. There is no in between. You've buried the old version of you in a grave of lessons, and the new you doesn't entertain beggars with ego problems. You're done with the half-truths, the manipulations, the empty apologies. You're done with people who confuse proximity with loyalty, love with possession, respect with silence. You've learned, and what you've learned has changed you forever. You've learned that being the bigger person doesn't mean staying silent while people destroy you. It means cutting the rope and letting them fall. You've learned that some people only come close to feed, not to grow. That some people only understand kindness as weakness, and that your greatest act of self-respect isn't in forgiving everything. It's in walking away and never looking back. That's power. That's peace. That's presence. You've realized now that truth is the most powerful currency on this planet. And when you carry it without fear, you become immune to manipulation, immune to lies, immune immune to the guilt trips and gaslighting and crocodile tears. Because truth doesn't need permission. It doesn't need validation. It just is. And now, so are you. And to those still watching, still lurking, still hoping the old version of you will come back and save them from the fire they started, you're already gone. You're already walking in a different dimension, a higher frequency, one they can't reach without facing themselves. And most won't, because facing you means facing what they did to you. And that's a mirror too heavy for cowards. Let them sit in it. Let them wear the silence like a shroud, because this version of you doesn't break, doesn't bend, doesn't apologize for being too real in a world built on lies. You are not bitter. You are truth-telling. You are not cold.